All right, Friday, happy Friday. Yesterday in class we worked on the retrieval, which there was one problem on the retrieval, dealt with triangle sum and exterior angles of a triangle. That's in your notes. If you need to, go back and look at the video on that. That would be, should be the Unit 5 task. And it dealt with naming some angles too, and we have two parallel lines and a transversal. You need to make sure you're reviewing those. Those are tough, and I know they're tough because students don't review them. In fact, I will look and tell you what page those notes are right now. That's page 34 and 35 are those notes. Talks about vertical angles, exterior angle of a triangle, and two parallel lines by a transversal. So today what we're going to talk about in class, we're going to talk about just do some more practice problems here. And I'm going to pick 14 because honestly 12 and 13 are pretty easy. When you look at 14, the sum of the three angles of a triangle is 180 degrees. This is an exterior angle. What do we recognize about the exterior angle of a triangle? And on your notes, these angles were numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what we recognized is that 4 was equivalent to the sum of 1 and 2. 4 is an exterior, 2 is what we call remote interior. They're inside. They are the two non-adjacent angles. So since we understand that, let's apply the theory. We know that these two remote interior angles added together is equal to the exterior. So I'm just going to create a problem. X plus 2x plus 10 plus 6x minus 10 is equal to 120. All right? Create the problem. You have to understand the concept and you create the problem. Now we just go ahead and solve. 2x and 6x is 8x, so I've used those. Okay? Plus 10 minus 10. Well, plus 10 minus 10 is 0, so I'm going to cancel those out. That's going to equal to 120. 8 times what is 120? Well, 8 won't go into 120. Well, you don't know unless you try. And 8 will go into 120 once with 4 left over. Bring down your 0. So it goes in, oops, that's a 5. So it goes in 15 times. So I found the value of the variable. It says find the value of x and the measure of each missing angle. So I got to find the measure of each angle. There's a couple of ways you can do this. Okay? Now that I know the value of the variable, I can plug it into each expression. So 2 times 15 plus 10 and 6 times 15 minus 10. Now, let's work smarter, not harder. A lot of us know that 15 and 15 is 30. So I'm going to say 30 plus 10. Well, 30 plus 10 is 40, so that makes this angle over here 40 degrees, which I'm going to label. Right? Now, you could multiply 6 times 15. Maybe you don't know that. I don't know that off the top of my head. But what I do know is these two angles add up to equal this one. So what is 140 minus 20? That might be easier. 12 minus 4. That would be 80. So 16 times 15 has to be 90 because 90 minus 10, I'm going to subtract 10. Right? So 16 times 15, and if I look at my paper, which I did earlier, yes is 90. I showed my work. I circled 3 answers. One for the value of x and one for each of the angles, not to mention I labeled them in the diagram. All right? And then if you move on, the next page is pretty simple. It's just asking to indicate whether each are congruent or parallel. We know congruent is equal, or excuse me, congruent or supplementary. We know congruent is equal, supplementary means they add up to 180. So I'll just pick one of these. It says 5 and 8. So 5 and 8. I'm gonna focus on 5 and 8 right here. What do I recognize about these angles? They are across from one another. How would I name them? If they're across from one another or opposite one another with some other terminology we used, they're vertical angles, and we know that vertical angles are always congruent. All right? I will let you go through and do the rest of those. You got to think, okay? You've got to think about pairs of angles and their relationship. I'm not going to tell you what the answer is, but let's look at 2. Let's look at 2 and 8. Okay? So I'm going to focus on 2, and I'm going to focus on 8 here real quick. All right? Again, I'm not going to tell you, but what I want you to imagine is I took some scissors and cut this line right here. I took line Q and put it directly on top of line P. If I put Q on top of P, 8 is going to move to where? 8 is going to move to 4. What is the relationship now between 2 and, remember, I substituted 8 for 4. What's the relationship between 2 and 8? That should tell you the correct answer. All right, so work on that. This assignment will be posted for today.